You know, there's something quite peculiar about the way the universe arranges its most profound lessons. It doesn't deliver them through mountaintop revelations or mystical visions in distant temples. No, the cosmos has a far more intimate curriculum. It sends its deepest teachings through the people who share your breakfast table. Who know exactly which words will unravel you. Who can wound you with a glance or heal you with their presence. The family, you see, is not merely a social arrangement or biological accident. It's the universe's most sophisticated spiritual gymnasium, where the strongest souls are invited to lift the heaviest weights. And here's what makes it so ruthlessly effective. You cannot escape the training. You cannot simply close the book when the lesson becomes uncomfortable. Cannot meditate your way out of Sunday dinner. Cannot transcend your way past the complexity of loving people who know every crack in your armor. Think about it. A stranger's criticism slides off like water on stone. But a parent's disappointment? A sibling's betrayal? A child's rejection? These pierce straight through to something ancient in us. Something that predates language. Something that remembers being utterly dependent on these very people for survival itself. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, has arranged it so that our most challenging spiritual work doesn't happen in ashrams or monasteries. It happens at kitchen tables. In living rooms where old grievances hang in the air like smoke. In hospital waiting rooms where love and fear become indistinguishable. In moments when you're trying to explain yourself to someone who's known you since before you had words. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. The very people who trigger our deepest wounds are often the ones the universe has specifically assigned to help us heal them. It's as if the cosmos looked at your particular collection of unresolved material and thought, let me design a family system that will press on every single one of those buttons with extraordinary precision. But why? Why would the universe be so apparently cruel? Well, perhaps it's not cruelty at all. Perhaps it's the deepest form of love imaginable. The kind that refuses to let you sleep through your own evolution. You see, the family reveals something that solitary spiritual practice often misses. That enlightenment isn't about transcending the messiness of human relationship. It's about discovering divinity within the mess itself. It's about finding the sacred in the profane, the eternal in the temporal, the unconditional in the midst of the most conditional love we'll ever know. Consider this for a moment. When have you grown most profoundly? Was it during peaceful meditation? Or was it in the crucible of family conflict, where you were forced to choose between your ego's need to be right and your soul's longing for peace? Have you noticed how family has this uncanny ability to show you exactly who you haven't yet become? Share your reflections in the comments below, because this recognition might be the doorway to your next evolution. Let's look at what actually happens in these family dynamics. Every day, in countless homes across the world, people are engaged in what appears to be ordinary domestic drama. Arguments about money. Whose turn it is to do the dishes. Why nobody listens. Why everyone demands so much. But underneath this mundane surface, something far more profound is occurring. These interactions are actually elaborate dances of consciousness meeting itself in different costumes. Your difficult mother? She's showing you your own resistance to being controlled. Your rebellious teenager? They're mirroring your own unexpressed need for freedom. Your overly critical sibling? They're voicing the harsh judgment you've internalized about yourself. The family becomes a hall of mirrors, each member reflecting back aspects of your own psyche that you've either denied or haven't yet integrated. And this is where the real work begins. Because you can't just observe these reflections from a safe distance. You have to live with them. Eat with them. Navigate holidays with them. Make decisions with them about matters of life and death. The ego desperately wants to escape this laboratory. It tells elaborate stories about how damaged they are. How toxic the family system is. How much better off you'd be with distance. And sometimes, yes, physical distance is necessary for survival. But here's the paradox. Even when you're thousands of miles away, The family dynamics continue to play out in your psyche. You carry the whole constellation inside you. You've probably noticed this, haven't you? You move across the country, change your phone number, start a new life, and yet somehow you recreate the same patterns with roommates, with colleagues, with romantic partners. The universe sends you the same lesson in different packaging until you finally get it. Now, let's go deeper into this peculiar arrangement. The strongest souls, the ones with the greatest capacity for consciousness, they don't get assigned to easy families. They get the complex ones, the contradictory ones, the ones that require tremendous spiritual muscle to navigate. It's like the universe is saying, I'm going to give you a father who cannot express love directly. So you'll have to develop the capacity to see love in silence, in provision, in awkward gestures that never quite land. Or perhaps, I'm going to give you a sister who competes with you for everything. So you'll learn that there's enough light for everyone to shine. That someone else's brilliance doesn't diminish your own. These aren't punishments. They're assignments. They're the specific curriculum your soul signed up for. Even if your personality has forgotten the registration process. And here's something that might shift your entire perspective. Your family members are also struggling with their own assignments. Your difficult parent is not a villain in your story. They're the protagonist in their own equally challenging narrative. Trying to carry burdens you may never fully understand. Working through wounds that were inflicted long before you were born. This recognition doesn't excuse harmful behavior. It doesn't mean you accept abuse or tolerate toxicity. But it does allow you to see the whole picture. To recognize that everyone in the family system is simultaneously teacher and student. Wounded healer and sacred mirror. The universe tests its strongest souls through family because family is where we cannot hide. You can maintain a spiritual persona at the yoga studio. Can be wise and composed in your meditation group. Can speak eloquently about unconditional love in workshops. But try bringing that evolved self to Thanksgiving dinner. Try maintaining your center when your mother asks why you're still single. When your brother makes that comment he always makes. When everyone falls into the same worn grooves of interaction you've been dancing since childhood. This is the real test. Not whether you can be peaceful in perfect conditions, but whether you can remain connected to your essence when everything in the environment is triggering your defenses. And here's where it gets really interesting. The very resistance you feel toward your family. That desire to push them away. To be done with them. To finally be free of their influence. That resistance itself is the ego's last defense against transformation. Because if you can learn to love them, truly love them, not despite their flaws but including their flaws, not by overlooking what's difficult but by embracing the whole catastrophe, then you'll have discovered something that transcends personal development. You'll have touched what the mystics call unconditional love, what the Buddhists call compassion. What is simply the recognition that we are all wounded, all struggling, all doing our best with the consciousness we currently have access to. But let's be honest about what this path requires. It requires you to feel everything you've been avoiding. Every disappointment. Every abandonment. Every moment when you needed them and they weren't available. It requires you to grieve the family you wanted but didn't get. To release the fantasy of the parent who could have saved you. The sibling who could have understood you. The child who could have validated you. This grief is not optional. It's the price of admission to genuine peace. You cannot skip over it with positive thinking or spiritual bypass. You have to go through it. Feel it fully. Let it reshape you. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. You start to see your family not as obstacles to your happiness, but as essential characters in your awakening. You begin to understand that their limitations were perfectly designed to force you to develop your own strength. That their absence taught you self-reliance. That their criticism helped you develop internal validation. That their chaos forced you to find peace within yourself. If you're recognizing yourself in this exploration, if these words are touching something deep in your experience with family, consider subscribing to this channel. We're building a community dedicated to exploring these profound questions of consciousness, relationship, and the spiritual dimensions of our most challenging human experiences. Each video continues this journey into the heart of what it means to be awake in the midst of life's complexity. Now, watch what happens when you stop resisting the family dynamic and instead become curious about it. When you stop trying to change them and start asking, what is this teaching me? What part of myself is being revealed in this interaction? What would it be like to meet this moment without my usual defenses? These questions shift everything. They transform you from victim to student, from wounded child to conscious adult, from someone who's being done to into someone who's learning and growing through every encounter. This doesn't mean becoming passive. It doesn't mean accepting abuse or denying your own needs. It means bringing consciousness to what's happening, responding rather than reacting, choosing your battles wisely, knowing when to engage and when to step back. The strongest souls understand something that eludes most people. You cannot control your family members, but you have absolute sovereignty over your own responses. You cannot make them see you differently, but you can change how you see yourself in their presence. You cannot force them to evolve, but you can use every interaction as an opportunity for your own evolution. This is the great secret. The universe isn't testing you to see if you can fix your family. It's testing you to see if you can remain whole in the midst of their brokenness. If you can stay loving when they're being unlovable. If you can maintain your truth when they're invested in their version of you. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop trying to change them, when you release the need for them to be different, when you simply show up as your authentic self without apology or defense, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, they begin to shift too. Not because you manipulated them into it. Not because you finally said the right thing. But because consciousness is contagious. When you stop participating in the old dance, the dance itself begins to change. But even if they never change, even if they remain stuck in their patterns until the day they die, you are free. Free not from them, but free within the relationship. Free to love them without needing them to be different. Free to grieve what never was while accepting what is. Free to be disappointed without being destroyed. This is mastery. This is what the universe is cultivating in its strongest souls. Not the ability to escape difficulty, but the capacity to remain present within it. Not the power to avoid pain, but the wisdom to let pain become medicine. Think about the moments when your family has broken you open. The times when their actions or words shattered your carefully constructed identity. In those moments, as devastating as they were, weren't you also closer to truth? Weren't the masks stripped away? Weren't you forced to touch something more real than your everyday persona? This is the gift hidden in the wound. The family doesn't just trigger your pain. It reveals where you're still clinging to illusions about yourself. Where you're still trying to be the good one. The smart one. The successful one. The one who has it all figured out. Your family won't let you maintain these comfortable fictions. They remember when you were small. When you were confused. When you made mistakes. They have access to versions of you that you've tried to leave behind. And this, as uncomfortable as it is, keeps you honest. It prevents you from floating off into spiritual fantasy. From becoming so identified with your evolved self that you lose touch with your humanity. Your family keeps you grounded. Keeps you real. Keeps you humble. Now, let's address the darkness directly. Because some families aren't just challenging. They're genuinely harmful. Some souls are tested not through mere difficulty, but through actual danger. Through trauma. Through violations that should never happen. If this is your story, hear this clearly. The universe is not asking you to tolerate abuse in the name of spiritual growth. Setting boundaries is not a failure of consciousness. It's an expression of it. Protecting yourself is not unspiritual. It's essential. The test for these strongest souls is different. It's whether they can escape the cycle without becoming the cycle. Whether they can protect themselves without hardening their hearts. Whether they can hold perpetrators accountable while recognizing their humanity. Whether they can heal without requiring the people who hurt them to acknowledge or apologize. This is perhaps the most advanced curriculum the universe offers. To transform poison into medicine. To find blessing in betrayal. To discover that your capacity to love was not destroyed by those who failed to love you properly. And here's what emerges from this crucible. The most compassionate people on earth are often those who had the least compassion shown to them. The most conscious parents are frequently those who had unconscious parents. The most gifted healers are typically those who have walked through their own hell and came back with medicine for others. The universe wasn't being cruel when it gave you that family. It was being wildly optimistic about your capacity to transform suffering into wisdom, pain into purpose, wounds into gifts for the world. But none of this happens automatically. Trauma doesn't automatically create wisdom. Suffering doesn't automatically produce compassion. The transformation requires your participation. Your willingness to do the inner work. Your commitment to breaking the cycle rather than perpetuating it. This is where the real strength comes in. Not just surviving your family, but using the experience as raw material for your evolution. Not just escaping the dysfunction, but ensuring it dies with you. That you don't pass it on to the next generation. Let's talk about forgiveness. Because it's often misunderstood in this context. Forgiveness is not saying what happened was okay. It's not reconciling with people who are still harmful. It's not forgetting or pretending the wound doesn't exist. Forgiveness is releasing the hope that the past could have been different. It's accepting what happened while refusing to let it continue to define you. It's recognizing that the people who hurt you were operating from their own pain, their own limitations, their own unhealed wounds. And that this understanding doesn't excuse them, but it does free you. Because when you forgive, you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for yourself. You're cutting the energetic cord that keeps you bound to the past. That keeps you returning to the scene of the crime. That keeps you defined by what was done to you rather than who you're becoming. And sometimes forgiveness doesn't even involve the other person. Sometimes it's a private transaction between you and the universe. You and your own heart. You and the part of you that's been carrying resentment like a stone. When you set that stone down, when you finally release the weight you've been carrying, you discover something astonishing. You're lighter. You're freer. You have energy you didn't know you had. Because you're no longer using it to maintain your fortress of grievance. But here's what makes this process so paradoxical. You can't force forgiveness. You can't forgive because you should. Because it's spiritual. Because someone told you to. Forgiveness arises naturally when you've done the work. When you've felt the feelings. When you've grieved what was lost. When you've reclaimed your power. It's not something you do. It's something that happens through you when you're ready. And the readiness can't be rushed. The universe gives you all the time you need to work through this. To arrive at genuine peace rather than spiritual bypassing. Now, let's explore the gift that only family can give. There's a particular kind of love that exists nowhere else in human experience. It's not the romantic love that sweeps you off your feet. It's not the friendship love based on shared interests and mutual admiration. It's something older, deeper, more primal. It's the love that exists despite everything. Despite knowing each other's worst moments. Despite years of conflict and disappointment. Despite profound differences in values and worldviews. It's the love that persists not because of merit, but because of connection. And this love, as messy and conditional as it often feels, is actually the closest thing we have to unconditional love in form. Because it doesn't require you to be perfect. Your family has seen you at your worst and you're still in the picture. They know your flaws intimately and somehow the relationship continues. This is the laboratory where you learn that love doesn't mean the absence of conflict. It means staying connected through the conflict. It means returning to the conversation even after the terrible argument. It means showing up for the hospital visit even though you're still angry about something that happened years ago. The universe uses family to teach you that love is not a feeling. It's a commitment. It's not about maintaining perfect harmony. It's about returning to connection after rupture. It's not about never hurting each other. It's about repair. About apology. About trying again. And when you learn this with family, you carry it into every other relationship. You become someone who can stay present through difficulty. You develop the capacity to love people in their wholeness, not just their convenient parts. You understand that real intimacy requires seeing and being seen, warts and all. This is what the universe is cultivating in you through the family experience. Not perfect peace, but genuine presence. Not the absence of problems, but the wisdom to navigate them. Not the elimination of differences, but the maturity to honor them. Consider how your family has shaped your capacity for resilience. Every time they disappointed you and you survived, you learned that disappointment is not fatal. Every time they rejected some part of you and you remained yourself anyway, you developed authentic self-worth. Every time they couldn't give you what you needed and you found it within yourself, you became self-sufficient. These weren't failures of the family system. These were initiations. Difficult, painful, often unfair initiations, but initiations nonetheless. Each one preparing you for the complexity of adult life, where not everyone will understand you, where your needs won't always be met, where you'll have to find your own center in the midst of chaos. The universe knew you'd need these skills, so it gave you a family that required you to develop them. Not because you deserved to suffer, but because you were capable of transforming suffering into strength. And now, having done that work, having developed that strength, what do you do with it? This is the final test. Do you use your hard-won wisdom to separate yourself from those who are still struggling? Or do you use it to extend compassion, to offer understanding, to become a bridge between consciousness and unconsciousness? The strongest souls don't escape their families and leave them behind. They transform their relationship to family while remaining in relationship with family. They hold firm boundaries without building walls. They protect their peace without withdrawing their presence. They evolve beyond the family patterns while remaining available for connection. This is the dance. This is the art. To be both separate and connected. To be both autonomous and relational. To be both transformed and still part of the system. Because here's what happens when you achieve this balance. You become a healing presence in the family field. Not by trying to fix anyone. Not by preaching or teaching. But simply by being a different possibility. A living example that change is possible. That consciousness can emerge from unconsciousness. That the cycle can be broken. Your very existence becomes the message. Your peace becomes medicine. Your boundaries become an invitation for others to discover their own. Your authenticity gives permission for others to risk being real. And sometimes, years later, when you least expect it, a family member will reference something you said, will mirror back a way of being you modeled, will take a step toward consciousness that they couldn't have taken before you took yours. This is the ripple effect. This is how families heal across generations. Not through dramatic interventions, but through one person doing their work so thoroughly that it creates space for others to do theirs. But even if no one else changes, even if you remain the only one who woke up, your transformation matters. It matters to your children if you have them, because they won't inherit your unresolved trauma. It matters to your community, because you bring clarity where there was confusion. It matters to the collective consciousness, Because every person who wakes up raises the vibration of the whole. The universe tests its strongest souls through family because family is where the individual meets the collective. It's where personal evolution intersects with ancestral patterns. It's where your private journey becomes part of humanity's larger awakening. You are not just working on your relationship with your mother. You're working on the mother wound that lives in the collective psyche. You're not just healing your relationship with your father. You're addressing the father hunger that afflicts our entire culture. You're not just navigating sibling rivalry. You're exploring the shadow dynamics of competition and comparison that shape our world. Your family is a microcosm. What you heal there, you heal everywhere. What you transform in that intimate field, you transform in the larger field of human consciousness. This is why the universe is so invested in your family work. This is why it keeps presenting you with the same challenges until you break through. Because you're not just waking up for yourself. You're waking up for all of us. So when you sit across the table from that difficult family member, when you're triggered again by that same old pattern, when you're tempted to react from your wound rather than respond from your wisdom, remember, this is not a punishment. This is your assignment. This is the curriculum your soul chose. The particular mountain you agreed to climb. The specific contribution you're here to make. And you are strong enough. The very fact that you are given this family is proof that you have the capacity to work with it. The universe doesn't make mistakes in these assignments. It doesn't give you more than you can handle. Though it often gives you exactly as much as you can handle. Which can feel like too much until you discover the strength you didn't know you had. Every moment of family difficulty is an invitation to discover more of that strength. Every conflict is a chance to practice consciousness. Every disappointment is an opportunity to release attachment. Every betrayal is a doorway to self-trust. The family doesn't need to change for you to be free. You don't need them to see you accurately for you to know yourself truly. You don't need their approval to approve of yourself. You don't need their love to be made differently for you to be whole. This is the ultimate teaching. The final liberation. You are already whole. You are always whole. The family experience didn't create your wholeness or destroy it. It simply gave you endless opportunities to forget and remember. To lose yourself and find yourself. To be broken open and discover that even broken, you are complete. The universe tests its strongest souls through family because family is where we learn the ultimate lesson. That love and pain can coexist. That connection and autonomy are not opposites. That you can be deeply hurt by someone and still choose to love them. That you can set boundaries with people and still keep your heart open. That you can honor the relationship while honoring yourself. This is wisdom that can only be learned in the crucible of intimate relationship. This is mastery that emerges from navigating the impossible complexity of loving imperfect people imperfectly. And when you've learned it, when you've truly integrated it, you carry this medicine everywhere you go. Into every relationship. Into every challenge. Into the world that desperately needs people who know how to love without losing themselves. Who can stay connected without abandoning their truth? Who can be both tender and strong? Both open and boundaried. Both human and divine.